No Game, No Life, Volume 6, Chapter 2, Part 2. 1 times 1 equals reckless. The game was one-sided. Without ever seeing a path to victory, Riku lost in just 29 moves. Exactly as planned. Damn it, you win. Crap, I guess I'm gonna have to take you to my village like I promised. There was no way he could beat a machine that exploited high-level computation to deduce perfect play, and that was why he'd proposed conditions advantageous to the loser. With a smile, but not forgetting to feign remorse, Riku stood and considered the Ex Machina girl. Miraculously, everything had pretty much gone the way he'd intended it to. He still wasn't quite sure what she was really up to, but employing a high-level strategy against the likes of humans would be pointless. If it was just this weirdo who'd taken an interest in humanity, i.e., the other Ex Machinas hadn't, then they shouldn't have been receiving any attention from other races. Having said that, this game had no binding force. It was too early to let.
Question. What is reason for display of remorse?
What? For an instant, he held his breath. Had she seen through his acting? He wondered. No, she couldn't have. He closed off his feelings entirely to play a character. Even Riku could hardly tell it was fake. But if she did see through to the truth within him, then that... Looking at Riku's weary eyes, black eyes and supposedly incapable of reflecting anything, the machine girl announced nonchalantly.
Determination. Presence of heart confirmed. Subject judged worthy of further analysis.
Riku didn't know what that meant, but the Ex Machina girl's expression, almost a subtle smiling, was he just imagining it? Ah, come to think of it, we haven't introduced ourselves. The realization came to him a bit late. It had completely slipped his mind given the string of overwhelming events. My name is Riku, and you are...
Answer. Capital U umlaut C 207 capital P R 4F57 T9.
Huh? What? Is that your name?
Affirmation. Unit identification number synonymous with name.
Look, if you want to communicate and be understood in the village, you should pick a name that sounds human, or... The girl mulled his suggestion over a bit, and then...
Question. Name is arbitrary unit identifier.
Well, yeah, I guess. Next, the girl thought hard enough to make a scratching sound. But then she put her fingers in her long hair and gave her name.
Reply. Unit name is Squarzer.
That's not easy to say, not easy to understand, and not like a name. I reject it. By the 3 N's, call yourself Squee. Riku shut her down. Still, maybe he was imagining it.
Enigma. Arbitrary setting corrected. Rebuttal. User able to call freely from start.
But she somehow looked like she was pouting as she protested. It must have been his imagination, Riku decided. All right. Summing up, I'll take you back to the village. But a few things before that. He counted off a finger and said carefully. You can't analyze the heart. If they find out you're an Ex Machina, they'll all get scared and won't want to communicate with you.
Coherence.
With a nod from the ex machina girl, now called Shui, Riku continued. So, now that we've got your name, can we fix that way of talking you have that screams, I'm a machine?
Layden. Virtual personality 1610.
Shui looked up, seeming lost in thought for a second, and said, He. Then I'll call you Big Brother. How do you like this? Are you messing with me? Denied. She'd just taken her flat, monotone voice and forced accents onto it. Riku shot it down.
Rebuttal. Unit dedicated significant resources to assessment.
You think I can just wave my hand and tell everyone I actually had a little sister?
Request. Provide optimal scenario.
Riku thought maybe Squee was sulking after all, but he set her aside to think seriously. Being straight about it, he'd run off for 5 days without telling Koron, and now he'd be bringing home a girl. The most plausible scenario was, all right, you're a survivor who lost everything in the flames of war. You're timid. You don't talk too much, and when you do, you mumble little by little. It'll be a pain if they ask about your past. Don't say more than you need to. No more of that stereotypical machine talk at the beginnings of your sentences. What do you say? Squee absorbed Riku's words one by one, as if chewing on them. It must have been at least 10 full seconds. After deep contemplation, the ex-machine girl, Squee, nodded once more. With that, her mechanical expression, previously inorganic and emotionless, assumed a faint shadow. Quietly, she opened her mouth. Okay. How is this? Her unbelievably natural mimicry of a human, even bringing her expression in line. Riku left at a loss for words for the moment. Hey, is this acting? It was as if she transformed. Were it not for his exposed mechanical parts, even Riku might have fallen for the illusion she was human. It was so unnaturally natural, it seemed to remind him of something. But Squee wagged her head from side to side. Acting? No, I emulated a personality to support the specified values. Riku didn't understand what she meant, but he did recognize that she probably wouldn't be taken for a machine like this. Now there was just... Okay, now why don't you put on some clothes, finally? Yeah, no matter how well she might maintain appearances through her words and expressions, human girls didn't walk around naked. Cover your mechanical bits. Put a hood over the parts on your head. Listen, don't go showing people your skin, all right? Shui replied with a nod. I'll only show it to you. I think the message you're sending is a little off, but sure, let's go with that. Looking at the big picture, he could foresee the commotion awaiting him at home. Still quite uncomfortable with it, Riku decided to give up heading for the city ruins and instead return to the village, carrying a gift hardly wanted. Riku, we're here? Yeah, seriously. Not that I can believe it. Actually, it was Riku who'd gotten carried. In mere hours, Shui had zipped Riku a distance that would have taken 5 days by horse at full speed. When she arrived at the village, she put Riku down. The absurd difference in the race's abilities brought him past astonishment to disgust, and he groaned. That movement, are you sure it doesn't use spirits? I'm sure. I'm a purifier. My performance is below the average for an ex machina. This is below average. Huh. And without using any arms. If I could have used armaments, it would have taken minutes. Setting aside this astronomical assertion, the challenge is from here. Riku reminded Shui with a look. The mechanical ears and metal piece on her head that said Ex Machina, no matter how you looked at them, weren't detachable. They somehow managed to cover them up by making a robe with a big, baggy hood. But the challenge is those tails sticking out of your robe. They're not tails. They're virtual spirit corridor junction nerves. No, I mean, whatever. But can you roll them up or something to hide them? The two independently gesticulating cables, despite their own assertion to the contrary, were obviously tails. I can't. They're my power source. This is the second time I've told you. Yeah, I got it. Riku sighed. Initially, when they were preparing to disguise Shui as a human, he said it would be easy if they used spirits, employing her disguise spell device. But it would be a problem if there was a spirit response from the village. So they had to resort to this desperate nonsense. Apparently, her tails, or in her vernacular, her virtual spirit corridor junction nerves, drew power from the environment. It was like eating for a human. It didn't use spirits, but consumed them. So there was no spirit response. But according to her, she had no choice but to expose them. Riku tore at his hair and spat in frustration. Look. Forget it. We're just gonna claim their accessories. Let me just say this one more time. If they find out you're not human, you're not going to be able to analyze the heart, okay? Keep that in mind and do everything you can to act human. Alright. Courage steeled. They entered the cave, passing through the tight tunnel. At the gate, the boy on watch. Oh, called out to him. Riku hurriedly extended his index finger to shut the kid up. Thank you for your work. Everyone's worried about you. The boy on watch, answering in a whisper, noticed Shui next to Riku, and his expression clouded. Shh, indicated Riku with the same gesture, and he passed through the gate. As Riku tiptoed up the stairs, hiding his presence, Shui asked, Riku, you're scared. Is it because of me? Yeah, of course. That's one thing. But right now, what's really... Riku stopped in mid-sentence. As fast as he turned, he rushed to cover his head. Riku! The very instant the yell rang out, Riku's guarded head, no, his abdomen, took a deep blow as Koron, racing toward him, landed a knee. Unable to even make a noise, he started writhing on the ground. But Koron, as if unwilling to allow that, grabbed him by the collar and shouted in his face. I can't believe you! You left for 5 days without telling anyone! What are you trying to do? As Koron screamed and shook him violently, Riku, unable to argue, just gurgled. Then she abruptly stopped. Who's this girl? She's so cute! Flinging Riku aside, Korn glomped Squee, grinning at Riku as he choked. Oh, Riku! If you were going to find a bride, you should have just told us. Koran, is your brain all right? What kind of idiot these days goes off for 5 days to find a... Riku answered squinting, but Korn nudged him with her elbow and went on. Come on! You don't have to be bashful. These days, priority 1 is making babies. 2 is eating. 3, 4, and 5 are making babies. So what about you? Riku just barely stopped himself from asking out loud. But Riku, you never showed any interest. Everyone was worried. I won't get in the way. So you two go get in the bath, and then you can make sweet... Stop doing that. While Korn repeatedly jammed her index finger in the space of a circle she formed with the other hand, Riku hurt his head. Look, shouldn't common sense tell you she's a refugee from a destroyed village? As if finally awake, Korn froze with a breath. Adopting a meek expression, she asked, Is she? As soon as he said it, Riku thought, Crap. But what could be done? Now he'd just have to see it through. He braced himself as he opened his mouth. So, I deciphered from the dwarven map that there was a conflict about 2.5 days' ride from here. There was supposed to have been a small village thereabouts. So I went to check. It wasn't a lie. According to the map, a village had disappeared in a conflict between Dwarf and Demonia. It just happened that it had been 2 years ago. Given that the only one in the village who could read Dwarven was Riku, it was unlikely he'd get caught. But that wouldn't be enough to satisfy Koron. Alright, but that doesn't mean you had to go by yourself, does it? Riku, seeing this coming, shook his head. It would have been too dangerous if I had anyone with me. But if I told you I was going alone, I would have stopped you, of course. It's just like you, Riku. But please think of your sister a little. How many holes do you want to poke in my stomach? Korn looked at him pleadingly. Realizing that the corners of her eyes were red and swollen, Riku felt a heavy weight drop on him. He regretted from his heart having made her seriously worry. But still, he couldn't tell her the truth. Korn sighed with a vague sense of surrender and turned to inquire gently of the newcomer. I'm sorry. You've been through a lot. What's your name? Shui. Just as specified, just as configured. Shui behaved timidly as she responded, using Riku as cover. Korn smiled and nodded at this before continuing. But don't worry. You're safe here. Riku's here for you. I wonder how you and Riku met. Riku thought surely the question had been posed innocently enough. She just asked out of curiosity, to advance the conversation. Or it could be that her suspicions were somewhat aroused at how composed Shui seemed for someone who'd lost her village. Shui got stuck for words for a moment, and Riku gave her a look to indicate, go with the flow. But there was no way an ex machina like her could grasp what he meant. With a kiss, and a demand to reproduce. Here's the question. Who'd take that statement as Shui demanding to reproduce with Riku? And so it was that Koron, with a sharp, heavy stomp forward, if you want to do that, unleashed a laugh that dug into Riku's solar plexus, a shout that shook the cave. At least find sanctuary first! And reaped the young man's consciousness. He discovered a survivor of tender years from a destroyed village and immediately demanded sexual intercourse. Rumor propagated faster than sound, and throughout the village, heated debate flew this way and that. No, Mr. Riku's right. You gotta do what you can do when you can do it.
I disagree. Riku should have obtained her consent first.
Wait, hold on. You don't even know if there was consent or not, do you? We have our word that she demanded it, don't we? How can you... This is weird. First of all, the whole subject was weird. Mostly in that not one of them brought up Shui's age. Everything was weird. Maybe it was just him. They say the chaos of war leads to derangement. After all, it was clearly all the nutjobs in the village who were long gone. You could traverse a gallery of gazes, some reverent, some spiteful, through the village to his room. Then, in a small voice, so as not to be heard, he muttered to Shui, who walked beside him.
Look, you. Will you give me a break?
About what? Apparently not knowing what she'd done wrong, Shui eyed him quizzically.
In the first place, you wanted to learn about my heart. So in a way, you were seducing me, right?
Remember how she'd called him Big Brother when they met?
Couldn't you have made yourself a little more mature?
While Rika complained that if she'd just done that, they wouldn't be in this situation, Shui blinked emptily.
I'm supposed to look like what human men, what you like.
Don't you start calling me a pedophile. I like, more voluptuous.
That's not true.
Shui shot back decisively and went on.
If that were true, you'd have no reason not to engage in the reproductive act with that human named Koran.
Now then, Riku debated. He'd just been mechanically judged as a pedophile, and Koran had been put forward as evidence of this. At which should he snap?
In the first place, all human men prefer young girls. Cut the shit. Don't generalize like that. Humans each have their own false, biologically young individuals capable of reproduction have the advantage. No argument. This chick.
Maybe it was his imagination, but it looked as if the ex machina, who wasn't supposed to have feelings, was copying a patronizing attitude with her lecture.
I have no frilly subjectivity. Humans prefer young women capable of reproduction. This is a fact. I don't know what to do with you.
His face a mask of exhaustion, and with all kinds of stares at his back, he could finally reach his room. Was it his imagination that had felt horribly far?